we go. Start the snowblower. I got my earmuffs on, so I won't be able to hear you. Alright, just a couple of simple things about a snowblower if you're not used to running them. Number one, they will eat up anything that's in the snow. They'll tangle up with newspapers, dog toys, sticks, you name it. And they'll break these blades here. They make a tool for cleaning the blades, but I have since lost mine. If the blades get jammed up, stuck with ice or anything like that, you got to get in there and break it all up. Always turn the machine off for obvious reasons. It'll turn your arm into a hamburger. I like to use this old corn chopper. It works pretty good. Just get in there and kind of break it all up. See, we got snow and ice on the blades like we did yesterday. And I like to carry this thing around with me because these blades, they get very jammed up with snow and ice, and then they don't work so good, especially on this wet, heavy snow, because it's kind of slushy. If you're not used to dealing with the snow, this stuff's it's great for the yard, and we definitely need the water. But when it comes to all this other stuff, it can be kind of a hassle. It likes to jam up in your gutters, and then you don't get the right snow melt, you know. So today we're going to be helping the neighbors out. I like to dress in layers. I got my stuff on today, and I'll be stripping it off as I get hotter. But we're going to do all the same stuff we did yesterday. Hopefully it'll be easier. And we'll see where that goes. I'll go ahead and put the chesty on. That way you could watch me blow snow, I guess. I got goggles in there. I'll be wearing those as well. But here we go. be making biscuits and gravy this morning using chorizo meat. And we'll probably have help from the cats and the dogs and everybody else that can interfere. I'll be posting the recipes up here. They're just rough estimates, so you'll notice that I'm not really exacting with all of this stuff. But we're going to start with using the flour for the biscuits recipe. We're going to preheat the oven to 425. So that that's ready. I like to start the gravy first and then get the biscuits going. That way it has time to cream and do all of the things that it needs to do. For the gravy, we're going to be using about 3 pounds of chorizo sausage today. I like to use bacon as well. My wife's favorite is regular breakfast sausage. I'll be adding probably an onion to this as well, and the cat's about ready to jump into the screen. But that's okay. She does it every time. But for the gravy, we're going to be using just about 1/2 cup of flour, give or take, whole milk, and some heavy whipping cream. This is optional, but it does make it a little bit creamier as you let the gravy settle a little bit. And then I will be posting the recipe for the biscuits as well. The big key with the recipe for the biscuits is to make sure that your butter is almost pretty much frozen, because we're going to be grating it like cheese and then mixing it in with the flour. And we'll go from there. So we're going to be going on to the gravy for right now. So we're going to brown the chorizo. While that's going, we're going to cut up an onion to throw in with it. Again, the oven is preheating at this time at 425. And this is just a warm-up. I like to do a lot of cooking. We'll be doing a lot of this in the future in the field. Usually I do this on an open fire, but I also like to cook here in the house. It's a lot easier in the house, of course, but not nearly as fun. It's more of a chore. But a fun chore. Let's go over and cut an onion. Peel that thing out. This is a yellow onion. You can use sweet onions, white onions, whatever you prefer. I'm going to go over here and stir our hamburger. We'll see what that does. This is just how I like to cut onions. It's usually pretty quick. Just cut them right down the middle, and there you go. One of these episodes I'll show you how to do my potatoes. I'm kind of famous for making some pretty good potatoes, and there's a couple dirty tricks with that I've learned over the years. It really helps. So those are our onions. We're going to add those over to the meat. There we go. Probably going to throw a little salt and pepper in there. I like things on the spicy side. My wife is more of a mild person, so usually I kind of have to cut the difference and then add more sauce to mine, because usually I like it pretty hot. A lot of people have a hard time making gravy that doesn't get all lumpy. The secret to that is kind of finding that mixture between the grease and your flour and turn it into a paste. A long time ago I used to be a truck driver, and I drove a mixer truck, and this is a lot like mixing concrete. You have to do the same thing with concrete, otherwise you end up with lumps, and everybody complains and their houses fall down. So it's all about introducing it, making it into a paste, and then diluting it. If you just dump it into your milk, then it will clump up, and the surface tension of the flour will stick it all together, and you end up with a bunch of big blobs. I'm going to throw a little bit of salt and pepper in there. You'll notice With this, I'm going to use regular table salt, but a lot of times when I'm cooking, I like to use kosher salt. The reason being, especially when you're dealing with meat, is that regular table salt contains iodine in it, and that can give it a funky taste, whereas kosher salt does not have the iodine in it. Which is, the iodine is a healthy thing that we need, but it can make the food taste weird on certain things, especially on fish. A little salt in there. A little bit of pepper. Another thing that I use a lot, which I won't use today, is a product called Liquid Smoke. Really handy, wonderful stuff. That's that. And you can add it in there if you want a little bit of smoky flavor. It's really good for that, along with several other things. I use in a lot of my jerkies and different recipes, anything you want a smoke flavor to. Not going to add it to this. I think it just would be kind of weird, so we're going to leave it alone for now. Might try it in the future, because I'll try just about anything. And that's starting to brown up nicely. I'll give it a little bit of time. The oven is still preheating, and if I wasn't filming, I would actually be doing the biscuits right now while this is going on. But since I don't want to drag out my other camera at this time, we're going to keep it simple. And the oven is preheated, so we're about ready to go there too. It's no race though. The longer the gravy sits, the better it will taste. So we'll leave it at that. Looking good. Yeah, we were expecting to have a couple of feet of snow today. I don't think it's coming until later on this afternoon. We'll do more filming with that later, but I thought this was going to be really good with snow up to our eyeballs, but I guess the storm had other ideas. You can see that grease is starting to pool up in the bottom of the pan. And this applies for bacon, sausage, whatever kind of meat you want. It's a little harder with the super lean stuff. You need the fat. If not, you can add butter to it. I kind of like my pieces of meat to be a little larger, but my wife likes them ground up. So again, got to kind of split the difference as best you can. Another interesting thing you can do with breakfast gravies that they do in the South is you can add a little bit of coffee. If you want to put some coffee in there, give it a little bit of coffee flavor as well. There's lots of things you can do with gravy. It's not as hard as people think. Some people have a hard time with it. It's just because they don't understand how to mix the flour and the grease together to get the clumps out. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do. As soon as we get enough grease and everything's browned up nice. So the chorizo wasn't quite as fatty as I thought it was going to be. It's a little bit leaner, so I probably won't need the full half cup of flour. I'm guessing probably, well, maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons would be enough, but we'll go with a 1/4 cup of flour for this. Shout out to my mom and dad for buying me this pan for Christmas. It's pretty awesome. You're getting a little more grease in the bottom of the pan, which is good, and that makes it a little easier to mix it together. Again, like I said, if you don't have enough grease, you can always add a little bit of butter. That works pretty well. Just doesn't have quite as much flavor to it. Now that I think about it, this would probably be really good to add some green chili in there too if you have that. That would be pretty good. Yeah, it's almost too rich. Not yet. Alright. Dogs are in, so if they start barking, well, welcome to my life. They do it all day long. They wrestle and play in the living room, and you'll be seeing a lot of them when we go outside and play. They're going to be on almost all of my trips. Their names are Harley and Sophie. And you'll see my two cats around here, especially Bugs. She's a striped cat. She likes to jump on the counter and help me cook, which is not good. And I can't hardly keep her off the counter, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so we're going to add the flour. This has got a half a cup, but we don't necessarily need that much. We need to just try to keep it separate so that the grease pools down on the bottom of the pan in the corner. We'll add a little bit of flour. And it looks like about 1/4 cup. Now see how it's sizzling? The grease is sizzling. I like to hold it on the heat like that, up in the corner, and then mix it up into a paste. And what that does is once that grease starts to re-solidify after you heat it up together with the milk and everything in it, those clumps will come out. That looks like clumps, but because it's got the grease in it, it will disperse evenly when you heat it up in your gravy. Once you get it all into that paste, you can mix it up into the rest of the meat, just like that. The stove's getting hot. You can put it on there and let it heat up a little bit. And that, because it's in those greasy spots like that, it will keep the lumps from forming. And once it's mixed in like that, then you can add the heavy whipping cream. Again, I got about 1.5 cups here. Just a little bit. You don't need to use this. I like to use it, just makes it a little bit smoother, creamier consistency. So we'll see how that goes. We'll mix this in. And you got to remember that some of this will thicken up, so you want it to be a little bit runny when you mix it at first. So we have the whipping cream. I'm still on medium heat. Mix this together. Looking pretty good. You see how it starts to cream up like that, and then we'll add some regular milk. Gravy. My gravy is not lactose free for sure. So again, probably about 3 cups of milk, somewhere in there. Just enough to where you have it kind of watered down like this. Now the biggest thing is to make sure that you don't scorch it. So mix it up really good. I think I'm going to add a little bit more because I need to buy time to make the biscuits. And then I will turn my heat down to low and just let it slowly simmer. And you can hear it. There goes the dogs, just like I predicted. But that's okay. It makes it fun. Add a little bit more milk. Dinguses. They play like this all day long. They are best friends most of the time. Oh, did you get the bone? Did you show her who's boss? All right, so we're gonna leave it like that. I'm gonna cover it and we'll let it simmer and we'll just stir it eventually. And we're gonna reduce this down to low. I'm gonna cover it up and we'll go on to the biscuits. She's hiding out by the door. Say hi, Sophie. Can you say hi? Can you say hi to everybody? Yeah, you guys are gonna see a lot of these two, for sure. There's my pretty girl, and there's my dingbat. Yeah, you're a dingbat. Off, buddy. Off. So now we're back to the counter over here. We're gonna be making the biscuits. I already wrote down the rough recipe again. None of it's not rocket science. We're going to be just kind of estimating things. I'm not that technical. So we're going to start with 4 cups of all-purpose flour. This is for a rather large batch. The last batch was a little small, and I wanted to make the biscuits thicker this time, so they're going to be pretty thick. It's just basically a sugar spun recipe that I saw on the internet with a couple of twists from my grandmother's recipe that I kind of threw together, and hopefully it'll turn out. If not, don't use it. So we'll see how this goes. So we got 4 cups of flour. 1, 2, 3, 3 3/4, and that's roughly 4. So we'll go with that. Put this out of the way. 3 tablespoons of baking powder. 1, 2, 3. We'll get to the butter in a minute. 3 tablespoons of sugar. I'm sorry, 3 tablespoons. Yes, 3 tablespoons of sugar. 1, 2, 3. 1 teaspoon of salt. These are half teaspoons. We'll do a little bit. Now, if you're using unsalted butter, you're going to use a little bit more of this. I have salted butter, so I'm just going to add a little bit in there just to make it a little bit saltier. Okay. 1 teaspoon of cream of tartar. That goes, and 1½ cups of cold whole milk. We get this out of the way. Definitely not a cooking show. So we're going to add that in. Put the milk away. We might need a little bit of flour on the side once we start mixing everything together. Got to shred the butter, and then I'll come right back to you and we'll put it in here and we'll get everything going. Okay, so we're going to do 1½ sticks because there's 8 tablespoons of butter in each stick, so we need 12. So we're going to shred an entire one and then half of the other one. Use this bigger side. It doesn't have to be that small. You'll find that the butter shreds pretty easy when it's frozen. It's a lot easier than having to cube it all up. Of course, it's fighting me. Make sure when you're pushing this hard that you don't grate your knuckles off. We may have to cube it. I don't think it's going to, I think it needs to thaw out a little bit more. So we're going to cube it. All right, on the fly, here we go. Yep, still pretty frozen. That's why I didn't want to grate it so good. That's right. This is what I do in the field anyway. So we'll just chop her up, go with it. It ain't brain surgery. There we go. Lengthwise. Starting to soften up now. Probably should have taken it out of the fridge. It didn't want to thaw out apparently. But the grate usually works pretty good. It was just a little too hard this time. This one in half. There we go. Now we'll just hand mix some of this stuff together, throw some of the butter in there, and we'll just start scattering. I don't like to use the mixer on this, it beats it up too much. That grate was working too good at that time. All right, mix it all together. Get this out of the way so you can see what's going on. Here we go. Just mix it all together into a big dough ball. Most people have made Alright, so it's showing that our battery's almost dead, so let's see where this goes. There's our gravy. Looking pretty good. No lumps, no bumps, except for meat. The biscuits are looking really good. We're going to pull them out here in a second. I think they're just about done. And then we can eat. Let's take a look at them biscuits. Okay, we're almost out of battery, so let's hope this records. Pulling the biscuits out. There we go. And there they are. That turned out pretty good. So we got biscuits and gravy for breakfast. As long as it doesn't die on us. Mmm. Yumminess. And as every good husband knows, the key is, if your wife's eating, she can't be yelling at you.